Thanks, Steph. So what I want to target this evening in thinking about the topic that when we discussed it with Jacques, there are so many people who, as a result of COVID and the lockdowns, not actually COVID, the lockdowns have destroyed businesses, have destroyed relationships, have made a lot of people unemployable, not just unemployed, and not just a racial profile or anything like that, just the lack of jobs, the fundamental change in our society, the change in the way we do business on multiple levels. Clever, skilled, experienced, educated people are suddenly finding themselves unable to earn a living. They say that the way we do business moved forward by 10 years in a matter of months as a result of lockdowns. So we've transitioned into a technology-based economy much faster than we would have if there hadn't been lockdowns. And so people are finding themselves really at their wits' end. And, you know, our identity is wrapped up in our ability, especially as men, to provide for our families. I speak as a man, that's why I can relate to that. So it's so deeply in my genes, in my identity, that if I can't provide this, it's desperately difficult. And irrespective of the circumstances or why I can't provide, the fact I'm not providing eats at a person's sense of self-worth tremendously. And suicide rates have gone up phenomenally during this lockdown period. And it's actually a desperate situation. And the evidence is the response that has happened as a result of the invitations to this talk. Clearly, there is a need. A lot of people have shared it. Some people have said they're desperately keen to be joining in, but they weren't available tonight, so they'll pick up the recording afterwards. But so let me give you a case study, tell you a little bit about this topic of finding your authentic voice, because that's what it's all about. We look around, we're trying to say, what can I do? How do I reinvent myself? How can I create an income for myself? And I want to say the starting point is the title of my topic, and that is, we need to find out who we are and what we've got to give that is authentic, that's uniquely us, and that comes across credibly as a result of that. So I'm going to give you a little case study. I love this story. I visited a guy some years ago in Ganubi in East London, where I live, and he told me a story about his wife. And I don't have all the details spot on. It was a story in passing, but the principles, I think, are incredibly important for our discussion this evening. So let me just share those with you. So this guy said his wife has a lot of friends who have emigrated, sitting in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, America, all over the world. Afrikaans ladies missing home. And she's a very creative lady, so she puts all sorts of things on Facebook. This is some years ago, so it was the early days of marketing on Facebook, and she wasn't marketing. She was simply communicating with her friends all over the world. But she being creative, she was making all sorts of stuff. I had no idea what. Putting it on Facebook, and the friends were saying, "Jong, ek verlang na die huis, stuur my een van daai. Kan jy asseblief vir my ook een laat kry nie?" And so out of that request, and she wasn't trying to start a business. She was simply, friends wanted what she was making. She started making more. She started finding a way of getting it to them. And so she created a way of generating the products, a way of getting it to the people, and worked out with the exchange rate. This was a win-win. The friends were getting a bargain, and they were now not missing home quite so much anymore, hopefully. But she suddenly said, hang on, here's a business model. Because the demand kept growing, and no matter what she came up with, she's obviously very creative and full of ideas, and she was listening to what they wanted. She kept supplying what they were asking for, and as a result, suddenly she found herself with a business. And that business grew to a turnover of a few $100,000 a month in a matter of a relatively short space of time. And it's things like way out of what she originally started doing. She was no longer looking at what she enjoyed doing and other people wanted it. She was now doing stuff that they communicated to her. They'd say, you know what, we can't get king size or queen size extra length duvets, the covers, over here, wherever they are. It's just not available, or they're horrible. Send us some. So she branded them. What she put on them, I don't know, but she then personalized them with her Make Her Friends Homesick kind of logos or whatever she was putting on there, sent them all over the world, and the people loved them and they bought them. And she literally created a 200,000 to 300,000 rand a month turnover out of doing just that. Absolutely mind-boggling. So the business came to her. She didn't set out to start a business. She didn't have a marketing plan. She didn't have a business plan. Nothing. The business just happened. Okay, so what I want to say out of that case study very simply is, and for the sake of time, my plan was to break out into rooms now quickly and just discuss that. But I think what I want to ask you to do is in the chat room, just pick up a couple of the principles and type it there while I carry on talking. Just type in the chat room, the kind of things you're hearing me say, because it reinforces it, just typing it, sharing it with the others, something they were listening to and they missed something. It helps us to together get the point, get the learning, and it keeps reinforcing by typing it and by reading it. Okay, so that's the plan. So that's the principle that I illustrated beautifully that I want to speak about this evening, and just help you to understand how to transition from I need to do something, I've got to reinvent myself, and I haven't a cooking clue where to start. Who am I? What can I do? Why would anybody pay me? All these questions we have, we second guess ourselves, we shoot ourselves down, and at the end of the day, we convince ourselves that really we actually are unemployable. And we really, it's not a lack of will, it's a lack of knowing how to start or where to start. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where does our authentic voice come from. So true authority and confidence, which is what we need. And at a time like this, when one feels unemployable, it's what you don't have. We don't have authority. We feel like we don't have authority, and we certainly don't feel confidence. But that doesn't come out of finding a clever business model or buying a franchise or anything else. It actually comes out of finding our own authentic voice. Okay, and that's the point of what I'm wanting to speak about. So it's illustrated very nicely by a quote from Albert Schweitzer many years ago. Albert Schweitzer said, for many years, when a theologian speaks, you hear the voices of his mentors. Okay, so all the guys who taught him, he's quoting them. He's the expert at quoting others. But Schweitzer then goes on. Then one day you hear the man himself speaking. And that's where I'm going. That's what I want to help you to see, not just principle, but I want to actually give you a methodology as to how to get there as well. Okay, very practical. We're not going to just talk theory or airy-fairy kind of concepts. I want to make this practical that you can apply and that you can actually create a business out of. So, how does that happen? So, first point, when we stop trying to become something or someone else, and the classic cliche is stop trying to be the Facebook version of yourself. Okay, it's a big joke, but we all do it. To some degree, we wish if only we could be something. And very, very rarely do people say, how about me being optimally how God created me uniquely to be? I'm one of 8 billion, 7.9 billion people on the planet. Why can't I just be me? Nobody else is capable of being that. But how do I do it? What do I do? And, the problem is this is reinforced all the time by marketing. So you listen, from what I'm saying now, go back and listen to any marketing, any advertising. It always tells you you're inadequate in some space, and that's why you need to drive a BM, to smell like this, to wear those clothing, whatever it is. It's demeaning and it's insulting because it says that you are not enough, or I am not enough. And we don't see it because we believe that actually we do need something to make us awesome. And we just miss the point that actually we're already awesome. So the second point is when we get it that we really do have something to contribute that others can benefit from. And again, clever people, talented, educated, experienced people suffer from the same problem. Who would want what I've got? What have I got anyway? Why would they want it? There are many better options out there than me. And so on. And when we talk ourselves out of it from day one, okay, mainly because we don't know where to start. And that's why I want to focus on methodology. So I'm going to give you a couple of just 7 points, a couple of key concepts. I'll go through them fairly quickly So keep typing away in the notes, anything you pick up that's of value, or you can add to them if you want to add context to what I'm saying, help one another. Absolutely awesome. Let's do this together. So number one, every single one of us has achieved some success in life at something and someone else could benefit from that. Now, I'm assuming everybody on this group has a reasonable level of education, some business experience, and so on. But even more so, this applies to us because the humblest, most uneducated, unexposed person still has had a victory in their life. And I think the story that comes to mind, if you think back to the old South Africa, there were many, many domestics living in somebody's backyard, earning a pittance, seeing their family once a month or whatever it is, and really, really hanging in from month to month. Their own husband wasn't allowed to visit them in the maid's room, as it was called at the back. Yet those gogos from those days still managed to save money, enough money to educate their children. They would send it back to the homeland or wherever their kids were. They prioritized at their own expense. They prioritized finding a way of surviving while making money available for their kids to raise themselves above their mother's circumstances. And there are many stories like that. There are many, many, many of those incredible people. It would actually make a wonderful topic to write a book on, go and do the research and trace the stories, how lives have been changed by that. Now, I'm saying that because those gogos with the right methodology have got something incredible to teach a whole bunch of people. Successful, affluent people can learn a lot from people like that because they were frugal, they were disciplined, they knew about making their own needs less so that they can help the next generation. They had a long-term vision, a whole bunch of very practical aspects to what they were doing that are absolutely incredible. And yet you talk to them, they're the humblest people alive and really don't see themselves as hugely successful or influential at all. So that's a typical example. Every single one of us has achieved success in some area and somebody else could benefit from that. That's huge. And if we can just start by looking at ourselves and saying, okay, so what have I done in my life? I put myself through university. I managed to do an half Ironman. I went from a couch potato to a competent runner. I ate whatever. Every one of us have achieved something that somebody else can benefit from. And I'll get back to why we can benefit people, why they don't need to look to somebody else. They need to look to us. Okay, so number two, we do not need to reach 8 billion people, 7.9 billion people. Just those whose itch we can scratch. That's our tribe. Okay, so if you go from the 8 billion people out there, how do I reach them? No, wrong question. Let's start by saying, I need to identify my tribe, the people whose itch I can scratch, and let's focus on them. All right, next point, 3. So let's go back to my point number 1. We've achieved some success. So point 3 is, what is your victory? We actually need to start by saying, make a list. Look back over your life. Ask friends, why do they admire you? Every one of us has got somebody around us, a parent or whoever, who can give us an honest perspective on something that they've admired about us, that we've achieved. People want to hear your story of how you succeeded at overcoming their pain. That's a key. Okay, so think about that carefully. You've overcome pain in your own life in some area. You've got a story to tell. People love stories. We live in the age of stories. People want to hear, tell me your story. How did you manage to, whatever you managed to do an Ironman at 60? That was a very big deal for me. That's why I quoted. It changed my life because I went from not believing I could do it, giving it a wind, and actually loving it enough to go back and do it again. And it was life-changing. So there are a whole bunch of people who would love, 60-year-olds and maybe some quite a bit younger who would love to hear that. So I could build a business around that. Coaching people who want to go from 0 to hero at the level they're capable of doing. And I could take that methodology and start applying it in other areas and so build out from there. Okay? So number 4, and I see Sam earlier made the comment about authenticity. Sam, spot on. Authenticity appeals, and welcome, great to have you on board. Authenticity appeals and it sells. And I'll tell you why, especially now, and I think we all realize this already. We've gone through a transition in society as a result of COVID. And people have gone from being fairly vulnerable to manipulation by the media, by marketing and so on, to a lot more skeptical and a lot more relational. I think there's a heck of a long way to go. And it's frustrating how slow it is, but a lot of people are really, really getting it, that we need to be more relational. We need to be more authentic. We need to cut out the Facebook version and just tell me your pain. Tell me what's happening in your life. Don't say, I'm fine. Get real. And so it's a key marketing tool. If we just actually are vulnerable, honest, real, people can sense it. They say it takes less than 1 second to form a first impression of somebody. Literally a fraction of a second. And so as we tell our story, as we communicate with people, the receptors are picking it up very, very quickly. This guy's trying to sell me something. This guy's trying to influence me in a certain way or whatever. We pick it up. So authenticity comes back to finding our authentic voice. What have we got to add that is real? Nobody can take it away. It's our unique position, our unique experience, our itch that we've managed to find a way of scratching. Point 5, and this is quite a key one to help all of us, because we so easily, Bev, we never get a second chance to make a good first impression. Spot on, absolutely. And welcome from the UK. Bev's in East Grinstead in the UK, Bev Horton. And this is key. We don't have to be an expert. I think this is one of the biggest obstacles for all of us getting started, because we really think nobody's going to take me seriously. I've got no PhD in the subject. I've never done whatever to earn the credentials that all these guys on TV and radio and blogs and YouTube and everything else have done. They're not your tribe. Okay? So what we need to understand is, start like the lady in the example I opened with. She didn't start a business. She satisfied a need. So she was only marginally ahead of them. She met their need. They said, we've got another need. She worked out how to meet that need, and she met that need. And so her business grew out of just staying 10% ahead of the market. If you find your tribe and you're able to always listen very carefully, and I'll get to that point in a moment, hear what their needs are and stay 10% ahead of them by Google it. I mean, Google is an amazing resource nowadays. We just got to be careful about what we believe. But if we develop the ability to use our discretion, gather valuable information that's going to help our tribe, and we make that available to them, they love us, because we're scratching real issues. We're being authentic. We're not trying to sell them something in the hope that they will buy it. They've already told us what the need is. We're making it our business to solve their problem. And once that trust is built, we don't want to break it, but also it's very, very easy to build on it, put it that way. Okay, so people aren't looking for experts. They're looking for people who care, who understand their need. And there are not a lot of those people who are prepared to give them the time of day. Number 6, always be building a relationship with your customers. And that was the bottom line of that whole introductory story that I gave. She already had the relationship, but she listened. Ask them. Once you've got going, you can say, okay, what else do you need? What are you thinking? How would you like your duvet covers or whatever it is? What other options have you got? What other problems? Would you like a pillow with it? Have the discussion, let the market tell us, our niche, our tribe, tell us what else we can do to help them. And then adapt to that. And this, again, we battle, because no, they don't realize that's not going to help them. They must have this medicine. And so we want to, so often we have preconceived ideas, we want to impose those instead of really hearing Ask the 3 questions, ask the 5 questions that it's going to take to get to the backstory and find out what the real issue is. And then satisfy that need. You'll be the hero and they'll pay you for it. And then solve their genuine needs or problems. Solve them. Okay, make it your business to solve a genuine problem for them. All right, and then finally, the last point there, all of us, number 7, all of us, except for psychopaths, fear rejection. And I mean, there's credible psychological research on this. Top executives, people who've been hugely successful in life. You go and read their autobiography, every single person will tell you about their moments of deepest doubt. And it's often just before major breakthroughs, major success, where we're way out of our comfort zone. We find ourselves in a situation where we actually could easily talk ourselves out of it. So if we're now up front, this fear of not being good enough is not only now, it's going to carry on. We're going to continue to feel that way at times. There are ways of dealing with that. I have a friend like Jacques who's been an amazing friend to me and encouragement and so on. And then there are many others. Al Stratford who's listening, and welcome, Al. We've walked a long journey together over the years. And having people like that who can get alongside you and say, no, relax, but you've got this. Don't second guess yourself. What about this perspective? Have you tried this? Have you thought about that? Have you spoken to? And we use our tribe to help us to go forward. But expect it. You will feel imposter syndrome at times. And this imposter syndrome is defined this way. The psychological phenomenon reflects a belief that you're an inadequate and incompetent failure, despite evidence proving that you're skilled and quite successful. As I would say earlier, every one of us have had success in every area. Don't focus on the areas you haven't been successful at. And all of us have failed many times as well. No good focusing on the failures. Those are not going to help anybody. It's where we've overcome the failures, where we've overcome a problem. That's our success. And that's what's going to benefit somebody. All right, we're coming in for a landing. I just want to give you a couple of very practical points as to how to start. I'm going to give handout notes afterwards, which will be emailed to all those who are interested, which will take this much further. But for the sake of just giving you some pointers in terms of direction going forward, the simple plan for spotting an opportunity, 4 points. Let me give you those quickly. Number 1, we need to identify our customer, and I've already told you how to do that. Our customer is the person who's itch, we can scratch, because we've solved the problem in our own lives. Now we can help them solve their problem. On this level, that many people, not the whole world. Remember, not the 8 billion, our tribe. Okay? What is their pain? Sit down and work out what their pain is. And then we can do some market research. And I'm going to conclude in a moment by talking about my market research that I did in getting my business model started. Once we've understood their pain, we then work out a solution. So we take what has worked for us, see how we can apply it in helping them, and we build a methodology around it, which might be coaching, it might be training, it might be a motivational thing, it might, whatever. We build a business model around that. And then once we've done that, the 4th point is we turn it into an offer. Okay, so we can't go marketing and putting it on the internet or whatever we're going to do for marketing until we've actually got an offer. What are we actually going to do for them? So we got a solution and we turn the solution into an offer. Okay, and then we're ready to go and go into a lot more detail. So let me quickly show you some niches where you can start. Now, immediately your response might be, I'm going to give you the 3 biggest mega niches that turn over the biggest money in the world, online sales. All right. Now, I find it quite amusing when you look at these niches because everyone of us has some expertise in one of these niches. So it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to go to a niche where there's no market. So if we start by looking at our success area where we've been successful and relate it back to a niche, the big successful niches, then we've got a basis to say, now I can start building a model around that can actually make me money. It's not just something that's going to help people, but I can turn it into a business. Okay. The number 1, dating and relationships. Surprise. the number of people who've made books on how to win the girl, how to win the guy, how to recover from pain in relationship, on and on, something about dating and relationships. Google it and see. I haven't got the stats in front of me now, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay, so if you've got a victory in some area, my second time of being married, these are the mistakes I made the first time. But guys, these are the mistakes. This is the methodology for not making the same mistakes twice. There's a model. Okay. And there's a market, I promise you. Number 2, wealth and finance. Many people are wanting to learn how to manage money, how to make money, how to survive financially in these crazy times. Multiple niches around wealth and finance. And again, you don't need to be an economist or a CA or anything else to help people. You need to have overcome something in your own life. Maybe it was that gogo who put her kids through school or through university at great personal price. I would love to find a gogo like that and help her to turn that story into a mega hit. It would be incredible. The third one is health and fitness. Mega billion turnover every year as well. Okay, fad diets, weight loss, how to be a gym bunny, how to run 10Ks in 3 months, whatever it is. Health and fitness is the other massive niche. So I'll go through them again. Dating and relationships, wealth and finance, health and wellness. Those are the 3 biggies. It would help if you can frame your business in one of those categories, just because that's where the internet is focused. Okay, so find a problem from within one of these niches and focus on solving that for your tribe, identifying your tribe, and then start by creating some free content to test their response. And that I'll give you a bit more in my notes about that. So I'm going to give you a quick case study and then I'm done. Two key points, guys. If what I'm saying is helpful, if there's value in it and you're seeing some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, and with the notes you feel like you might start moving forward a little bit. 2 things, please. Speed and implementation are the hallmarks of a successful entrepreneur. Vacillating, second guessing, gilding the lily will never make a successful business. And I'm speaking to myself as I am to anybody else. And I'm sure my friends who know me well are all going to chirp me in the chat right now, because I'm guilty. I want to get it right. I want it to be excellent. I don't want to do half-baked things. And I can waste endless time second guessing myself. So I'm speaking to myself here. Speed and implementation. So I'm not saying be roughshod over the process. I'm not saying be slipshod or half-baked or unprofessional or any of that. I'm simply saying don't dither, don't second guess. Get on with it. Get to market and test small. Second point, test small and then scale large. Okay, so once you've done your little bit of market research, you've put out there some free content, you've checked the response, you're talking, you're identifying your tribe. As they buy in, you're able to then start scaling. And you've got to be thinking of scaling from day one, because if your business is successful, you want it to scale exponentially without taking up excess time. So in other words, you want to do it in such a way that people can, that you can create annuity income for yourself. They buy books, they buy programs on the internet, whatever it is, but they're able to keep paying you ad infinitum without taking up all your time. Okay, those were speed and implementation of the hallmarks of a successful entrepreneur, and test small, scale large. I'm going to close with this quick case study. I had a fascinating situation. Was very keen. I've been, as Jacques says, we qualified together as coaches at the end of 2004. We coached together for a year in 2005 in Joburg in the corporate market. I did an amazing year. Jacques was a great partner. We worked very well together. Olga says we argued nonstop, but we were chatting. We were discussing better ways of doing things. So as I was sitting in, I got more coaching qualification 2015, 2016. And from then, I've been trying to find a way of building a coaching business the way I want to do it. I wanted to find my unique voice. I wanted to service my tribe. And I didn't have the methodology. This is all stuff I've learned recently. Anyway, I had a crazy situation where I'm a Christian. One morning I was spending time with the Lord, and I got a very, very, very clear word from him: start with pastors. It was the most counterintuitive instruction, suggestion possible. And I won't unpack that now. But Steph Davies already laughing at my expense. Steph was one of the people I went to. I then sat down. I took it very seriously because I knew it was the Lord speaking to me. I sat down and I wrote and this is your methodology, guys. I wrote a profile of my avatar. This is the pain that pastors are going through right now. And to give you one example, 60% of the guys in vocational ministry in the United States at the moment are wanting to get out or are deeply frustrated. So I feel their pain, but I've never been in vocational ministry myself. So who am I to speak to them? Anyway, I soldiered on. I sat and I did my research. I wrote my profile of a guy who's gone into ministry, been awesome in the beginning, and then slowly people stop being nice to him, withdraw, get cold, and so on. And he can just feel over a period of a year, 18 months, 2 years, it isn't what it used to be. And this isn't what he feels he was called to do. I wrote the whole profile, and I identified 5 pastors that are on the fringe of my circle. In other words, not ones who know me well, who would be prejudiced by knowing me. Put it to these 5 guys, and I said, would you mind? And I phoned each one of them, and I said to them, would you mind? I've got a document. This is what I'm wanting to do. Would you mind reading it and just crit it for me? Tell me if I'm off the mark, or have I kind of got something going here? And what was absolutely amazing for me and massively affirming, because this is my market research, they all come back and say, so who do you think you are anyway? I mean, you're talking nonsense. What do you know about pastors? Or, that kind of response. Well, then, okay, I've heard wrong. Try something else. The mind-boggling thing was 5 out of 5 said to me, this is incredible. Minor edits, minor comments, suggestions, all constructive, all saying the need is incredible. You've identified the need clearly. Your suggestions are spot on. Absolutely awesome. Go with it, and we want to hear more. We're keen to see where this goes. So that's a very simple way of doing your market research, because now you think you've got something that might work, but you've got to test it. So you've got to apply your mind a little, identify your avatar, which is the profile of the person that you're going to try and help, and then go to talk to your avatars. Go and ask them what they think about what you're doing, and listen. This is the key. You've got to be listening with both ears very carefully, not trying to correct, not trying to tell them, no, you don't understand. Actually, one's got to really hear them and suck it in, because they're the target audience. They're the people that you're going to help. And if you can hear them and let them tell you what they need, if you're 10% ahead of them, you're a winner.
At the Griffin Foundation, we collaborate with industry experts who prioritize youth employment and help households live beyond the poverty threshold. Currently, we've been offering online events under our Re-energized with Purpose and Passion fundraiser series, which we would love for you to take advantage of. The online events focus on a number of relevant topics, such as business growth in the midst of a pandemic, travel, and personal growth. All proceeds made through the Re-energized with Purpose and Passion series are used to place youth in SMEs. This gives the unemployed youth an opportunity to build their work experience portfolio while allowing SME owners to work on an expansion plan with additional time on their hands. We know that SMEs are the lifeblood of the South African economy, and through this fundraiser series, we play our part. Play your part by attending our next event. Visit www.griffinfoundation.org.za for more information.